From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. Radio Pilipinas World Service can also be heard on shortwave broadcast through the facilities of the United States Agency for Global Media or Voice of America on the following shortwave frequencies: 12.020 MHz, 15.640 MHz, and 17.665 MHz. I'm your host, Leo Magpayo, and this is Dateline Malacañang. The Philippines has formally taken the helm of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Business Advisory Council, or ASEAN-BAC, following a ceremonial turnover held Thursday at Malacañang Palace in Manila. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. looked on as Jose Maria Concepcion III accepted the ASEAN-BAC flag, marking the official transfer of leadership from Malaysia to the Philippines. In his remarks, President Marcos underscored the country's commitment to driving stronger economic cooperation across Southeast Asia. He said the Philippines, as this year's ASEAN-BAC chair, will champion the development of economic corridors designed to boost trade and investment, reinforce regional supply chains, and widen opportunities for businesses and communities. The President emphasized that the Philippines will advance initiatives that are forward-looking, inclusive, and responsive, aligning with ASEAN-BAC's four priority pillars: people, planet, platform, and productivity. These efforts, he noted, include empowering MSMEs, workers, youth, and women, enhancing food security and agricultural output, accelerating digital transformation and artificial intelligence or AI adoption, and strengthening industry growth and regional integration. President Marcos also highlighted the need to turn ASEAN-BAC's aspirations into concrete action, guided by this year's ASEAN theme, Navigating Our Future Together. He reaffirmed the Philippines' commitment to expanding trade and investment opportunities as ASEAN pushes toward inclusive and sustainable progress. The chief executive added that ASEAN's success rests on cooperation, mutual trust, and shared accountability, principles that, he said, transform uncertainty into opportunity and lasting development.
As the Philippines assumes the ASEAN-BAC chairship, it is guided by our theme as this year's ASEAN chair, Navigating Our Future Together. This theme speaks clearly to our emerging needs and challenges. Across the region, economies are transforming, technologies are advancing, societies are progressing, all towards inclusive growth. ASEAN ensures that progress is guided by cooperation, strengthened by mutual trust, and anchored in common accountability. This is how we turn uncertainty into opportunity and change into lasting progress. Under the Philippine chairship, we place strong emphasis on building economic corridors that expand trade and investment, strengthen regional supply chains, and open doors of opportunity for businesses and communities across ASEAN. We note that the ASEAN-BAC's priorities for this year, anchored on four pillars: people, planet, platform, and productivity, are fully supportive of these priorities. These initiatives include empowering micro, small, and medium enterprises, workers, youth, and women, strengthening food security and agricultural productivity, advancing a digital and AI-enabled ASEAN, and boosting industry growth and regional integration across key sectors.
Established in 2001, the ASEAN Box serves as the private sector's official voice within ASEAN, tasked with promoting regional economic integration and deepening collaboration between business and government. Thursday's turnover coincided with the first ASEAN Box Council meeting of the year, bringing together regional business leaders, dialogue partners, and senior officials. The gathering also set the Council's priorities for 2026 and beyond, highlighting the Philippines' central role in steering private sector initiatives during its chairship. The ASEAN BAC was created during the 7th ASEAN Summit in Brunei Darussalam in 2001 with a mandate to provide private sector guidance to support ASEAN's economic integration agenda.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. is urging a united, long-term push to overhaul the country's education system as he received the Second Congressional Commission on Education, or EDCOM-2's final report on the national learning crisis. The handover took place Thursday at Malacañang Palace in Manila. The report, titled Turning Point, A Decade of Necessary Reform, outlines EDCOM-2's three-year assessment of the state of Philippine education and the systematic issues that continue to hinder student performance. Alongside the report, the President also accepted the National Education and Workforce Development Plan, or NET Plan 2026 to 2035, a 10-year roadmap designed to reverse the learning crisis and align workforce development with national priorities. In his keynote message, President Marcos said the documents clearly show the gaps that must be addressed and the reforms needed to strengthen the education sector. He stressed that the NET Plan provides a long-term strategy that can succeed only through unity, determination, and consistent implementation. The President noted that his administration has worked closely with EDCOM-2 to ensure that ongoing reforms match the Commission's recommendations. He said government efforts have focused on closing learning gaps worsened by the pandemic and preparing students for emerging challenges, including climate change. President Marcos expressed confidence that the reforms, supported by all sectors and carried out across agencies, can reverse declining proficiency levels. He cited curriculum revisions that make basic education more learner-centered and skills-driven, along with expanded hiring and career progression programs for teachers. The chief executive underscored the need for reforms that extend beyond political terms, saying the country must build an education system capable of preparing Filipinos for the demands of the future. He highlighted the 1.3 trillion peso education budget for 2026, the largest in history, which will fund teacher hiring, learning recovery programs, school feeding initiatives, and classroom construction. President Marcos also pointed to strengthened health support through DepEd and PhilHealth's Yakap caravans, as well as expanded scholarships for graduate studies and technical vocational training. He said these efforts aim to ensure that every Filipino learner receive the quality education they deserve.
These documents reveal where we have fallen short and what we must do to improve our educational system. The final report of the EDCOM-2, aptly named Turning Point, A Decade of Necessary Reform, provides a clear picture of the learning crisis that our education system needs to overcome. The report includes the NAT Plan, which offers us a 10-year plan to address the learning crisis that can be solved if we act in unity and with determination and with consistency. Ladies and gentlemen, this report shows us that we must think beyond the present, beyond my administration and current leadership, local leadership terms. It calls on government educators, industries, and communities to improve our educational system into one that will prepare every Filipino to meet the challenges of our time. From the start of this administration, we have worked consistently with the EDCOM 2, listening, coordinating, aligning our reforms with their recommendations. Throughout these past years, we have focused much on our efforts on addressing learning gaps and the damage caused by the pandemic to our children's education and the continuing cost that we are paying because of climate change. We revised our basic educational curriculum, making it learner-centered, skill-focused, and decongested. This year, we approved a national budget with the largest allocation for the education sector, amounting to 1.3 trillion pesos. This works out to the equivalent of 4.36% of the country's gross domestic product, and that exceeds the global benchmark for education spending for the first time in Philippine history. Through this budget, we can hire more teachers, reduce their overall workload, implement learning recovery in reading, math, and science, expand school-based feeding programs, and construct more classrooms, further improving our educational system. We are also strengthening Yakap caravans of the Department of Education and of PhilHealth. This ensures that our learners and school personnel can have direct access to primary care benefits. With these initiatives, we will continue building on the progress that we have made and strengthening our efforts so that all Filipino learners receive the quality education that they deserve and that they rightly expect.
The NAT plan directly tackles what EDCOM 2 describes as a nationwide proficiency collapse in Philippine education. The Commission links the crisis to a combination of childhood stunting, widening learning gaps, and inadequate skills development across grade levels. According to the report, 23.6% of Filipino children under age 5 are stunted, an early life condition that causes permanent cognitive impairment. It also reveals that 91% of 10-year-olds are unable to read and understand a simple text, while only 0.4% of grade 12 students meet minimum proficiency standards. The NAT plan further notes that 42% of senior high school graduates require remediation upon entering college, and just 20% transition directly into the workforce. EDCOM 2 says these figures reflect a deep mismatch between what the education system produces and what the labor market needs. To reverse these trends, the Commission is pushing a foundational skills strategy centered on early interventions in reading, numeracy, and cognitive development. Measures aimed at preventing further learning losses and rebuilding core competencies. The plan outlines ambitious targets across 3 milestone years, 2028, 2031, and 2035. Among them is a dramatic increase in grade 3 reading proficiency from the current 47.74% to 95%. It also seeks to raise grade 12 National Achievement Test proficiency from 0.4% to 90%. Other goals include reducing stunting from 23.6% to below 20% and raising national education spending to 5.5% of gross domestic product or GDP, signaling a long-term commitment to rebuilding the country's learning foundations.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang on Thursday said President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has directed the Department of Health or DOH to intensify monitoring of the Nipah virus as neighboring countries heighten border controls to prevent its spread. The Nipah virus, a zoonotic disease transmitted from animals to humans, is classified in the same high-risk category as COVID-19 and Ebola. Several Asian territories, including Thailand, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Malaysia, have already strengthened airport screening amid renewed detections abroad. In a palace press briefing, Presidential Communications Office Undersecretary Claire Castro said, the DOH's Bureau of Quarantine is closely watching global developments following the President's order to ensure Filipinos remain protected from emerging infectious threats. The DOH earlier noted that while India has confirmed cases, the likelihood of the virus entering the Philippines remains low, as no local cases have been recorded since 2014. Castro said the department has updated its health protocols in line with World Health Organization guidance. She urged the public to stay alert for symptoms such as fever, headache, and difficulty breathing. Health officials explained that the virus can spread through direct contact with infected animals, particularly bats and pigs, or through contaminated fruit. It can cause illnesses ranging from mild or asymptomatic infection to severe respiratory disease and fatal encephalitis. The virus has triggered only a handful of outbreaks in Asia but is known to cause significant livestock losses. Castro added that border screening remains in place, including thermal scanning, trained observation, and strict review of online health declarations of arriving passengers. She encouraged the public to remain vigilant and follow official health advisories, saying collective awareness is key to preventing the spread of infectious diseases.
Nipah virus at iba pang sakit minomonitor ng Department of Health. Upang mapanatag ang kalooban ng ating mga kababayan, patuloy na nakatutok at nagbabantay ang Bureau of Quarantine ng DOH sa Nipah virus na napabalitang na-detect muli sa ibang bansa. Ayon sa kagawaran, inaayon din ang kanilang mga protocol sa mga pinakabagong updates mula sa World Health Organization. Ito'y alinsunod sa direktiba ni Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. na panatilihing ligtas ang mga Pilipino mula sa mga infectious diseases. Tinitiyak din ng DOH na nananatiling alerto at proactive ang screening sa ating mga border gamit ang on-arrival thermal scanning, trained observation at masusing pagkilatis sa mga online health declaration. Patuloy din ang information campaign tungkol sa karaniwang sintomas ng Nipah virus gaya ng lagnat, sakit ng ulo, paghihirap sa paghinga, at ang mga paraan ng pagkakahawa gaya ng direct contact sa mga nakakahawang hayop tulad ng paniki at baboy o kontaminadong prutas. Makiisalaban sa pagkalat ng mga nakakahawang sakit, tumutok sa mga health updates ng DOH para manatiling ligtas.
That was PALS Press Officer Attorney Claire Castro.
Dateline Malacañang.
Also on Thursday, Malacañang said the government remains confident that fugitive former lawmaker Zaldico will soon be tracked down and brought back to the Philippines, even as authorities work to verify conflicting reports about his location somewhere in Europe. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro announced that the government is now coordinating with concerned agencies after new court documents suggested Ko may be in Sweden, contradicting earlier information from local authorities that he was hiding in Portugal. Castro said the Department of the Interior and Local Government, or DILG, is already checking the accuracy of the Swedish documents, which reportedly show that Ko personally appeared before a notary public there on January 15, 2026.
Sa ngayon po ay nakikipag-ugnayan din po tayo sa DILG at ang huli nga po nilang sinabi ay aalamin po nila kung ito'y may katotohanan. At tiwala naman po ang Pangulo sa ginagawa pong trabaho ng ating mga ahensya ng gobyerno, lalo-lalo na sa pagtugi sa mga fugitives.
Ko faces graft and malversation charges over an alleged 289.5 million peso ghost flood control project in Nauhan, Oriental Mindoro. His co-accused have already been detained. Despite the uncertainty surrounding Co's whereabouts, Castro said President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. continues to place full trust in the agencies pursuing fugitives and dismissed claims that the president is growing frustrated over the delay in Co's arrest. She said the president is confident that law enforcement officials are acting in line with his directives and remain committed to bringing fugitives back to face accountability. According to Castro, the president remains optimistic that Co and others evading the law will eventually be located, arrested, and returned to the Philippines to answer the charges against them.
Hindi natin masasabing may frustration ng Pangulo dahil alam po niya na ang mga namumuno sa mga ahensya ng gobyerno na tumutugis sa mga fugitive ay nagtatrabaho ng ayon sa kanyang utos. Kinakailangan lang po siguro ng talagang mas pursigihin pa ang paghahanap sa mga taong nagtatago sa kamay ng batas. Optimistic ang Pangulo na mahuhuli at madadala ang mga nagtatago sa batas ng sa kamay ng batas dito sa Pilipinas para mapanagot kung sila ay dapat na mapanagot.
That was Palace Press Officer Attorney Claire Castro.
Dateline Malacañang.
Still on Thursday, Malacañang said the government is moving to address the high cost of domestic air travel, a concern long raised by the tourism sector as it affects the competitiveness of top Philippine destinations. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said Thursday that airfare issues have been under review for some time, noting that certain domestic routes such as those to Siargao can be more expensive than flights to neighboring Southeast Asian countries. According to Castro, Transportation Secretary Giovanni Lopez has explained that one major factor behind elevated fares is the use of smaller aircraft on many domestic routes. These planes carry only 60 to 70 passengers but operate at nearly the same cost as larger jets that can seat around 200, driving up per passenger expenses. She added that for many island destinations, smaller aircraft are the only viable option, which naturally results in higher ticket prices. Castro also reported that the Department of Transportation has engaged major airlines, including Philippine Airlines and Cebu Pacific, which have agreed to lower fares on select routes, including flights to Siargao. Meanwhile, the Civil Aeronautics Board continues to monitor fuel prices and remind airlines to reduce fuel surcharges whenever global fuel costs decline, measures that help bring down overall airfare levels. Castro said these efforts reflect the government's commitment to making domestic travel more affordable and boosting tourism across the country.
Actually, napag-uusapan po talaga yan, issue po yan na mas lumalabas, na mas mataas ang airfare patungo, halimbawa na lang sa Siargao as compared kung pupunta sa ibang bansa. Pero ito po ay ginagawa na po ng paraan ni Secretary Banoy ng DOTR at sinabi po niya ang ilang mga dahilan kung bakit may mataas na airfare patungo sa mga ibang destinasyon sa Pilipinas. Unang-una po, may mga nag-ooperate mga smaller aircraft na nakakapag-accommodate lamang ng 60 to 70 passengers pero pareho po ng operational cost as compared sa jet economics na nakakapag-accommodate ng 200 passengers. So kung tutuusin nyo, mas mahal po talaga pag smaller craft ang magagamit. Pero karaniwan po talaga, smaller craft lang ang pwedeng bumiyahe sa mga magagandang destination dito sa Pilipinas. Pangalawa po ay sinabi rin po niya na nakapag-negotiate na po siya at nakapag-usap na po sa pamunuan ng PAL at Cebu Pacific at nag-agree naman po na mababawasan ang presyo lalo-lalo po sa mga sa Siargao flights. Ayan po. At may mga problema rin po patungkol sa fluctuating fuel cost. Pero kapag ka po nakita naman po na bumababa ang presyo, nire-remind po ng CAB mga airlines na i-reduce din po nila ang fuel surcharge. Surcharge effectively cutting down airfare. So, yun po ang ginagawa ng DOTR. DOTR para po mas gumanda pa po ang turismo sa ating bansa pagdating po sa issue ng airfare.
As Palace Press Officer Claire Castro.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, Malacañang said President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. is standing by a firm with diplomacy strategy as tensions rise between Philippine and Chinese officials over the West Philippine Sea. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said that the president is fully aware of the escalating exchange of statements between Filipino officials and the Chinese embassy, an exchange that has prompted some lawmakers to call for certain Chinese diplomats to be declared persona non grata. The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, cautioned that such a declaration is among the most severe diplomatic measures a government can take and should remain a last resort. The DFA stressed that it continues to pursue dialogue as the primary avenue for resolving disputes, noting that it is in direct communication with Beijing on key bilateral and international issues. In a statement read by Castro, the DFA appealed for space to carry out its mandate, saying it hopes to address concerns through consultation rather than public exchanges, consistent with the President's guidance as the country's chief architect of foreign policy. The palace reiterated that the administration remains committed to protecting national interests while maintaining diplomatic channels open.
Department of Foreign Affairs takes note of the proposed resolutions in both houses of the Philippine Congress that calls for declaring diplomatic personnel of the Chinese embassy as persona non grata. The declaration of persona non grata is one of the most severe forms of diplomatic action that can be imposed by the government against foreign diplomatic personnel. While it is within the remit of the DFA, such an action is an option of last resort, second only to downgrading of relations, when diplomatic relations with a certain country has seriously fractured that no intervening remedy can stabilize the interaction and engagement. It also carries tremendous implications moving forward, such as reciprocal action or other countermeasures in other areas, which is why it should not be made lightly and decided only with careful and clear thought and preparedness for how it will shape the Philippines' strategic interests moving forward. The DFA remains committed to its mandate to conduct diplomacy in an appropriate and effective manner that advances the overall national interest. It is in direct communication with the Chinese government on various bilateral and international issues that are of great importance to the Philippines. It is hoped that the DFA would be provided with ample space to perform its functions and to sort out issues with foreign counterparts through dialogue and consultation rather than through public discourse, in accordance with the President's vision and guidance as the architect of Philippine foreign policy.
I was Palace Press Officer Claire Castro.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, Radyo Pilipinas World Service of the Presidential Broadcast Service can be heard over the following shortwave frequencies: 12.020 MHz, 15.640 MHz, and 17.665 MHz. Radyo Pilipinas World Service is also live on audio streaming. Just download Evox PBS Receiver on your Google Play Store or the App Store from your Apple phone. You can also visit our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Just type in and search for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our posts as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.